I've been all
Okie
across
dokie,
this
folks,
country.
and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Night Shaw. This week on the show, I have PWA referee, the Fitzpatrick. That's your wrestling name, right? Or your
It's
refereeing name?
Michael the Fitzpatrick.
Oh, okay. See, like I mean, I know you sort of more so by your shoot name. I do know you as Fitzpatrick, but I wasn't sure if your first name was the same or whatnot. But how did you come up with that? And what is the reasoning for a referee to have a kayfabe name?
So when I first got into the business, it was about 5 minutes before going out to referee my first match. Kurt Sorokin looked at me and he's like, "Pat, you're Irish, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Michael Fitzpatrick. See you out there, kid."
Oh, okay.
So that's how I got that. And then the Fitz part, where everybody just calls me Fitz or Fitzy, that actually came from Sheik Shabazz himself, gave me the nickname the Fitz.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So it's not something that you came up with yourself. It was more so bestowed upon you. How do you feel about it? Like, are you happy that you've spent the last like you told me the other day you had been refereeing for 20 years, which I think is amazing, and we will get into. But like, you spent 20 years using that name. Is there any regrets not just using your real name?
No, not really. That's just the way it was when I broke in, I guess. It's like nobody used their real name. It wasn't a popular thing at that time.
And
it was Kurt that gave it to me, so.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally see just like, I mean, Kurt's a promoter and a booker and stuff, so obviously he has a affinity for creating characters and stuff. So the more that he gets to do that, I'm sure that the happier he is, Yes,
and for the first couple years of my career, I always used to hear, if Michael Fitzpatrick, does Patrick fit Michael? Drove me nuts after like the 800th time of listening to that. Well, now everybody just calls me Fitz or Fitzy or whatever.
Yeah, 100%, bud. So let's get into it. I mean, you did mention to me you started 20 years ago. So was that in the year 2000? Is that when you ref your first match?
Yeah, probably would have been the end or beginning of 2000. It would be the end of 2000, maybe the beginning of 2001.
Okay,
was my first match, I believe, I refereed.
And so how did you get into refereeing? What got you into wrestling in general?
Well, wrestling since I was a little kid, like most of us. My grandfather's idea of babysitting was me on his lap, a case of beer at his side, and Stampede Wrestling on the TV. So that was probably my first memories ever of wrestling. And then how I got into the business, because I never thought I was going to be in the business. I'm a small guy. But how I got into the business was I frequented a coffee shop that Kurt and Tex Gaines also often
this is amazing.
Went to.
I'm sorry. Just this is a sitcom in the making. There's a coffee shop there, and off in the corners, Kurt Sorokin and Tex Gaines planning their upcoming cards and stuff.
And yeah, they just used to see me there all the time, and we just started talking to them about wrestling and stuff. And then they're like, "Oh, you should come and train with us at the building one time." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't know if I believed them or not right off the bat until I actually walked into the building, and lo and behold, there was a wrestling ring. And so I trained for a little bit, and then it was right after the PWA's Shaw Conference debut.
Okay.
The show they did at the Shaw Conference. I think it was a year after that. Their first show is going to be Festival Place in Sherwood Park. That's where I refereed my very first pro wrestling match.
Do you remember who?
I don't remember who it was. No.
Do you?
You know what I remember from those days? I remember Sergeant Hazard worked as Axel Foley, Axel Rotten, Axel something that night. Axel Schultz. Sorry.
Okay.
There's so many
I was going to
Axels.
say Axel Rotten, I'm pretty sure, is a different guy completely.
Yeah, that's that ECW guy.
Yeah.
Axel Schultz, and he wrestled Marky Mark.
Oh, okay.
And I remember that from the festival place. I remember I took my first referee bump ever from Dirty Duke Durango, which is he squished me in the corner.
How did that feel?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Durango.
It wasn't a big deal because you obviously had been training to wrestle. So
Right.
how long did your wrestling training go, and what led you to decide that refereeing was the path for you rather than donning the tights and competing?
Wrestling training probably lasted a few months, like 6 to 8-ish months, maybe.
Oh, okay. So you must have all the skills to put together like a full match and stuff then.
Maybe when I was much younger and more spry. Not anymore, man. I'm getting too old for that stuff. Refereeing's rough some nights. But I think my biggest thing was why I never became a wrestler is because apparently I was such a great referee that it was hard to replace me, especially back then where it wasn't a lot of people, you know, it was a lot harder to get into the business than it is now. And it was a lot harder to replace me back then. So, and I was apparently a pretty good referee because everybody used to say it. And yeah, I think I was just too good for my own good. So that's why I never got into the actual wrestling part of it.
Yeah, and and you were cool with that? Like, how, like, were you like disappointed that you didn't get to actually wrestle, or?
There's a part of me, maybe the entertainer in me was maybe a little bit disappointed, but the as a person, not really, because you know what, I'm okay. I mean, I got enough aches and bruises and sore joints and stuff like that. I don't need to add to that.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, that's kind of a day, like a weekly thing in the life of a wrestler. It's like every time, well, not
absolutely,
even weekly, but like literally every time you step out of the ring, if you like know what you're doing, you're gonna have a few aches and pains. You know, there should be some hurt involved. You know, hopefully, like I always like to say that like it's cool to hurt people, but don't injure anyone. You know, like there's a difference between being hurt and being injured, and like
yeah, in the wrestling business there really is.
Yeah 100%. So Thaddeus was on my podcast pretty recently, and he kind of spilled the beans that Chris Rockin actually masked up there and joined in on one of the battle royals as a nightmare. Is that something that's you've ever done, maybe, that or are you not allowed to talk about it?
No. I have never masked up as a nightmare. I did enter the Battle Royal once. What did the New Year's Resolution Battle Royal once, which I believe you can check out on the PWA YouTube page. I think the Battle Royal that I enter is on there.
Solid. Do you know what year that was?
2019.
Oh, okay. So is that the one that Zoe won?
No, I think she won 2020, didn't she?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure.
The one just before we shut down. I'm not sure either. I had the worst memory for that stuff. Honestly, man, I have no clue.
Yeah, and
it might have been.
I'm not super up to date on like my PWA knowledge, just because like, you know, like I work for the other company and whatnot, and I've only been to a few of your guys' shows, but I always do enjoy it when I get to come out there. I mean, there's some spectacular wrestlers there. No doubt about that.
You know what? It might have been the one where Marky actually disguised himself as a nightmare and won the Battle Royal, and then revealed himself at the end of it.
That's a fantastic angle too. I would love to see that. That's really good. I mean,
it's on the YouTube page, I'm pretty sure.
Awesome. Well, we will check that out. Do you know what the actual YouTube is called or whatever, so that people can look it up, or should you just look up Prairie Wrestling?
I think it's PWA Wrestling CA is the name of the YouTube page.
Okay, solid.
I believe so.
And there's probably more than just that Rumble match on there. There's probably lots of great matches, eh?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Boris looks after it, so yeah, of course. He's going to pick good matches to put on the YouTube page.
Yeah, Boris is on the ball. I'm really happy for Boris that he's got his own podcast going on right now. I mean, I'm also like sure he's getting like way bigger numbers than I am. So congratulations to Boris. I'm very happy for him.
I think that's the next one I'm doing actually is Boris's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I want to do like a crossover gimmick with him so that maybe like I'll come on his or he can come on mine. I'm sure he's got lots to talk about. Like he's been commentating for a while and I'm sure he's been in the ring a time or two.
Oh, he used to manage in the PWA. He was a manager. He managed Tex Gaines.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a lot to manage.
Yeah, it is.
I like Tex Gaines. I wish I got to see him more. Since the Force Wrestling Academy like thing shut down, I haven't had a chance to talk to him that much. Every once in a while, shoot him a message over on the Facebook and stuff. But yeah, I haven't seen him in a coon's age. So
yeah, Tex is great. He's one of the guys who taught me the business, taught me how to wrestle. So him, Red Thunder, Yates. They taught me a lot in the business, like a lot of the in-ring stuff.
Yeah. So is PWA the only promotion you've refereed for?
Besides the Clandestine Society, yes.
Oh, okay. Right on. And how did you get involved with the Clandestine Society? Was it just like Michael asked you to be a part of it?
Pretty much. Right
on.
It's that simple.
I am kind of familiar with the Clandestine Society. I was there at their first act for sure, and by the time this comes out, I mean it'll already be revealed that I was part of the third act too. So, I mean I was really happy. I know you reffed a couple of the matches I was involved in, so thank you very much for doing that.
That's my job, man.
Yeah. What was when you first started refereeing? I'm sure, like being with PWA, who is quite well known for bringing in a lot of name wrestlers and stuff. What was the first big name wrestler that you got to ref for?
Oh, the first big name wrestler I refereed. I think it might have been actually Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Oh, okay.
And I think it might have been when him and Natty teamed up for one of the first times.
Well, like Natty spent time in PWA before she went to WWE, didn't she?
Yep. Natty, TJ, Harry, all three of them.
Yeah, even Teddy's done some stuff there, you know?
Teddy's done some stuff for us. Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, the PWA has like a rich history of guys that have like moved on to WWE for sure. I think even like Tyler Breeze maybe.
Tyler Breeze was there. Yep.
Apocalypse, who went to become Rick Victor. Like, there's a huge list of guys that have really gone on from PWA. I mean, there's some guys from RCW that have gone on as well, without a doubt. But like PWA has always been like sort of the premier wrestling federation here in Alberta.
What's the newest one? Tony Gill on NXT?
Yeah, that was Gershinder Singh. He's a good guy. I actually rode from Red Deer to Edmonton or Red Deer to Calgary with him one time. It was me, him, and Zach Mercury. Yeah, that was a interesting ride, but it's a fun story I have now because I'm like, I rode with this guy that's now on the WWE. I did the same thing with one of the Bollywood boys. I gave a guy a ride from the hotel to the venue out in Victoria one time, and for a long time I was like, I once picked up this guy in my really trashy like 1994 like Toyota, and the trunk was having issues working, and I was super embarrassed. And now he's in the WWE.
That's okay. Feel better, because I once drove Mick Foley from the airport to the hotel in a oh man, I think it was a 2000 Sunfire, which the front passenger seat was broken by abyss, so it didn't move anymore, and poor Mick didn't fit in the front, so he rode in the back seat and his luggage rode in the front seat with me. It was quite the fiasco.
I mean, that's like amazing though, because like that's like kind of the opposite situation. Like when it was me and the Bollywood fellow, it was well before he ever went to WWE. What you're talking about is Mick Foley is probably like well after he's been in the WWE and probably used to like limo service and all kinds of stuff, you know?
Right, and I picked him up in a Sunfire.
Oh, but then again, like you read his book and stuff, he spent a lot of time sleeping in cars and whatnot back in when he was breaking in. So, you know, maybe it was a taste of the old times for him.
Well, he was fine. I mean, we had a great chat about Elvis and whatever. Like, we were talking about everything, and he was asking about what he was doing and the company and things. So it was like a great chat on the way, but it was just, I felt bad that he had to sit in the back seat.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Like, you definitely have even when it was like just like, oh, I'm picking up this local indie fella and taking him. I wish my car was up to snuff here and that everybody could ride comfortably without having to worry about their luggage or whatnot.
To be fair, I don't think I was supposed to originally pick him up. I think it was Kurt that was supposed to pick him up.
Okay.
Because I was having breakfast with Al Snow, actually.
What was going on here that Al Snow and Mick Foley was this like some sort of big PWA like?
Yeah, it was Night of Champions.
Okay, and both Al and Mick were on the show, eh?
I believe Jay Lethal might have been on that show too, as well as the Beautiful People.
Wow, that was
Angelina Love and Velvet Sky were there as well, I believe.
That's crazy.
And so I was having breakfast with Al Snow, actually, when I got the text from Kurt that said he couldn't make it to pick up Mick. Okay. So I had to go. I had to rush to the airport, and I was like 10 minutes late trying to find a parking spot.
Did Al go with you?
No, I asked him if he wanted to come with me, and he's like, no, I don't want to go.
I don't want to see Mick.
I'll see him later.
Oh, okay.
And I found Mick Foley in the line at Tim Hortons at the airport, confused by the loony and the toonie.
Oh, okay.
It's also the only guy I've ever picked up from the airport, too, that was recognized was Mick Foley. Nobody else has ever been really recognized that I've picked up. But I picked up AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Jay Lethal, Sean Spears, like so many of them, like guys that they should know, but they didn't.
That's a crazy, like, cool opportunity in itself, you know, like. I think I'd be like really happy if Squig asked me to pick up like the name guys when they came in, because you could like just chat with them from the ride from the airport to the building. I mean, don't get me wrong, you probably don't want to like bug them and pester them, but like if you do get to have a chat with somebody that's cool and they spread their knowledge to you and stuff, like that's really like valuable information and stuff and a valuable opportunity to have, you know.
I mostly when I picked them up, I don't even think I really talked wrestling with them a whole bunch. I think it's mostly just small talk and, you know, maybe what they're doing that day, if they want to stop anywhere or get anything. Like, it's never, I mean, there's a few of them that I've talked wrestling with, like Christopher Daniels likes to talk wrestling. Yeah, Frankie Kazarian loves to talk wrestling. Those guys I've really sat and listened to and talk. AJ Styles likes to talk wrestling, but AJ came to the PWA a few times, and after the first time it was more like just talking to an old friend after a while, because I was always the guy that usually picked him up and drove him back to the airport. So
Yeah, I mean that's got to be like a nutty thing for you. Like this guy that's world famous on TV, like if he saw you just walking out and about, he'd probably be like, "Oh, there's the dude that picked me up from the airport. Hey, Fitz,
I,
how's it going?"
Surprisingly, he had a really good memory because I think there was like maybe a couple years in between times he came, and he remembered who I was. Like he walked right up to me, and he knew who I was to take him and drive him. So I was like, oh, that's kind of impressive actually, because I don't know if I would have remembered me.
Yeah, did you end up refereeing those guys' matches?
I generally referee the names matches, depends. But just about every name I mentioned, I definitely refereed.
Okay.
Except for Mick. Mick came, and I believe Mick was the referee for what he was involved in.
Oh, okay. You picked him up and you're like, "Hey, you're costing me some work tonight, Mick."
A little bit.
Boy, that's okay though. I mean, if it's Mick Foley, like I'm sure.
How, you can't argue with a legend.
Yeah, 100%, and like, yeah. That's where we'll leave that. I was gonna say something like, "Oh, and I mean it's Mick Foley. Like the people are gonna pop way more for him than they would for me or for you." But like, let's not sell ourselves short.
Anyway.
Yeah, hopefully they do. Like, but so we did mention that you did wrestling training and stuff, and that's how you kind of broke into refereeing and stuff. Was there specific refereeing training that you had to undergo? Like, was there anyone that pulled you aside and said, "This is how to referee a match"?
Duke.
Okay.
Duke was probably one of the first guys to. Well, Tex took me into the ring and just went over basic stuff like, get him out of the corners, keep him off the ropes, and, count your fives and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay, I know most of this just from watching it most of my life, or in my entire life watching wrestling. But Duke was probably one of the guys who pulled me aside and kind of started to smarten me up to how important the referee can be in a match. And so I have him to probably thank for that. And I was just smart enough to shut my mouth and listen and learn. Like that was probably the key, especially in that era. Like just shut up, listen and learn. And that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah, that's still good advice, like to this day, like the people that are teaching you are gonna know better. And I mean, I don't have a problem like trying to clarify something with someone. Like if I'm training with Michael or Metal and they're showing me how to do something and I need like more specific information, I will ask and speak up at that point. But yeah, it's not like I'm going to be like, well, I'd rather do it like this, like that's
right.
that's
right. There's a difference between trying to understand and then just being an asshole.
Yeah,
basically,
100%, 100%. I know because like, I've actually refereed some matches and stuff myself, and that was a weird situation. Like the first time it happened, I was announcing a show out in Calgary for RCW, and one of our referees ended up having like a temper tantrum, freaking out, and going home. And so Squig approached me after like the second match and was like, "Kyle, one of our referees just pissed off. Can you take over and be a referee?" And I was like, "Well, I've never refereed before, but like I'll give it the old college try if it's really like necessary." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And I was like, "But like I've never done it before." And he's like, "You know the rules to wrestling, go do it." So I threw on an RCW t-shirt and I talked to the people that I was going to be refereeing, and yeah, it actually went pretty well. Like on the first night, I mean, there was a few things that were, like at one point I was doing a tag team match, which is a more complicated than a singles match to referee for sure. And Bryce, the slammer, came in and he was like, "Hold me back, Kyle." And I was like, oh, the referees are not supposed to touch the wrestlers, right? And he's like, oh, fucking hold me back, Kyle. I was like, oh, okay, So, like, there was a couple of little things like that, but overall, like, I thought it went pretty well. But I mean, I think that actual like being trained to be a referee could be super invaluable. Like, when I see somebody like you and what you've been doing with like Clandestine Society and PWA as of recently, I mean, that work is much better than, what I was doing, when I was refereeing, or what other guys I've seen who are just kind of thrown into the role because we need somebody to do it.
I guess I always offer the tutelage to the guys that are reffing with me usually, because I've had so many guys like Mo Jabrari was a referee at the PWA.
Really?
And, I'd give him advice before he started wrestling as a ref. Just, stuff that I would notice. And one of the big things to be a referee that I've learned is that if I, as a referee, don't believe what's going on in the ring, or at least try and project that I believe what's going on in the ring, why should the fans believe what's going on in the ring? Because as a referee, we're kind of the ones that are bringing the legitimacy to what's going on in the ring. Yeah. So we have to believe in it, and we have to take it seriously. And it should never be about me, the referee. It's got to be about what the two guys are doing in the ring and the story they're telling. And I think I've seen other referees in other companies where, they'll be about themselves, or, like they'll get their own gimmick, and they're like, that's not what it's about. You're there to be the legitimacy and the guy that's got to, call it down the middle for the two guys in the ring to help them tell their story.
Yeah. You're like, I mean, I'm not trying to belittle you or make light of your responsibility or anything, but like the ideal referee is like an official assigned by the promotion to take care of the match, and is better when they blend in, like as if they were part of the ring or part of like this.
You are not wrong. The best referees are the ones you barely notice.
Yeah. I mean, like, and
until you need to be noticed.
There is a lot of lots to learn. What do you think is the most important aspect of being a referee?
I think it's two things. And the two things are, number one, I think it's really important to be able to pick up and understand the story that's being told so you can enhance that story.
Yeah.
The second would be to always check on the wrestlers to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
So when to, and have the balls to say you're not going to continue anymore. You're injured, dude, and this is done for your health and safety, right? And I think those are probably. And then just, like I said, shut your mouth and listen. And it's not.
I totally agree with everything you just said. I know that I'm not trying to put myself over as a good referee or anything. I was, mediocre, passable at best. But those are things that didn't even occur to me. Like there's literally been matches that are, sometimes they're just training matches and I'm just reffing because I'm there. And I remember one situation with B-Rat. He ended up, he did this crazy thing where he jumped off the top rope to the floor and he broke his ankle. And I was just standing there watching oh, wow, that looked like it hurt. Are you going to keep going? I felt bad about it. The medal was off there. Good God, ref, are you going to check on him? I was like, oh yeah, I probably should do that. It's just unless you are a referee, these things don't really occur to you, But I also agree with everything you said about, being in the moment and buying into what's going on. Because from the perspective as somebody that's an actual competitor, that's important advice for us as well. Don't get me wrong, that we know how to do the movement safely and perform without injuring each other and stuff. But there is times where it feels real, and things feel.
It should though.
Yeah, and those are the best matches usually. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like it's almost like kind of being in an in-between spot where you're so engulfed in what's going on and being in the moment, and you're experiencing it like it's real, but at the same time you're kind of looking at it and still cognitively thinking, this needs to be done, I gotta do this bump safely, I gotta watch, take care of each other, however it goes. It's a weird, like, I guess you really wouldn't understand it unless you actually been in the ring and wrestled in a match. That like, you can't even explain how it's.
And then
you and I get it because we've been in there.
Yeah.
But
and even like that, there's completely different situations. Like sometimes I'll show up at the show and I will meticulously plan out every little movement in the match with the guy that we're gonna do. And then sometimes I'll show up the show and I'll walk up to the guy I'm wrestling and he'll be like, "Yeah, I'll see you in the ring." And that's just what you got to do, right? Like you just have to come up with it off the top of your head, and that can make it even more real. I mean, there's a lot of potential there for things happening that maybe shouldn't happen because you're not prepared, but there's also a lot of potential for things happening that are cool little things that wouldn't have happened if you had prepared,
That's almost a lost art form. I remember most of the matches when I first started weren't discussed. Everything was called in the ring, and you had to pay, as a referee, you had to pay even more attention to stuff and be able to pick up on the storyline that's being told and being able to work with the guys in the ring without, outwardly talking about it. So, I mean, times have changed.
100%. And I mean, even like as a wrestler, like if I am across the ring from somebody and I want to call a spot, there's a lot of times I'll look at the ref and I'll be like, "Hey, go tell him da 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 da," And don't get me wrong, I'm not the one that's usually calling spots or anything, but there's been a time or two where a situation happened and my opponent, we buggered something up, and my opponent ended up like powdering out to the floor or whatever. And I was in the moment. I was like, okay, well, I got to come up with something. So I just told the ref, okay, hey, tell him I'm gonna spear him or whatever, And then he walks over to the guy and he's like, hey, get back in the ring. 1, 2, 3. And then as the guy's getting in the ring, he's like, yeah, he's gonna spear you, So, like, the referee is a vital communication tool within the ing as well.
Can be. Yeah, that's one of the ways. Definitely one of the things we have to watch for.
Is there any referees, perhaps, like, from major federations or anything that you've sought advice from or just basically have used as to pattern yourself after or just watched for how they go about doing their thing to try and learn?
3, maybe 4. The big ones are Earl Hebner.
Okay. Yeah, obviously like the most famous ref in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Joey Morella.
Okay.
And Charles Robinson. The other one that I used to pay attention to, not so much as the other 3, was Chioda. Mike Chioda.
Solid. And have you ever had like correspondence with any of these guys? Like, have you ever talked to them like, hey, I'm a ref. Do you have any advice for me or anything? No?
No. I think the only one there's a few guys that I've asked advice from before. Lance Storm was one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
AJ Styles was the one that taught me that when I'm in that ring, I'm the boss. To not take shit from any wrestler, no matter who it is. Because one time he made like he's gonna backhand me motion, and I played it up like, oh my god, I don't want to get backhanded. But he came to me afterwards. He's like, don't ever do that. He's like, when I do that to you, you give me shit, and you get right on my face and stand up, because you're the boss. Like, nobody's gonna take you seriously if you're constantly constantly cowering and backing down, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that makes you kind of partial. If you're afraid to get that AJ Styles is going to beat you up if you don't like award him the match, then
Right.
you're biased,
But
right?
he sat there and gave me that advice, and I was like, oh, I guess that makes perfect sense. I mean, I was just playing it up because you're AJ Styles. He's like, it doesn't matter who the hell's in the ring with you. He's like, I don't care who's in the ring with you. You get right back in there. I'm like, okay, cool. And from that day forward, I did exactly what AJ Styles suggested.
Well, I mean, I think taking AJ Styles' advice is a smart move.
Probably.
Yeah,
Considering he's probably the best pound-for-pound wrestler in the world right now.
100%. I'm
on TV. On TV.
Well, I'm a huge fan of his for sure. I mean, I've been watching a lot of Raws and SmackDowns lately, and I'm not super high on all the AJ Styles versus Elias matches and stuff like that. I'd rather see him in there with some more athletic AJ Styles type guys, but
yeah,
he always does bring it. Like I've seen him I've never seen a bad AJ Styles match,
No, he's like Michael. He could go in there have a match with a broomstick, and it's probably going to be a main event at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean MRB is another guy who's like fantastic, and like the thing I appreciate about MRB is like I talked to him and he told me like when he first started wrestling, like he couldn't do front rolls for like a bunch of like months and stuff. Like he was kind of like a fat chubby guy, and now he's killing it. And it's like that really is like quite inspiring to me. The fact that everything he's achieved is just from his own effort and hard work.
When I first met Michael, I think he was 16.
Okay.
Like, I don't even think he shaved yet.
Do you have any, like, young Michael stories for us?
Yeah. Here's it.
Let's not get too salacious. I don't want to get, like, a scolding or talking to or anything.
It's not salacious at all. And he'll be the first to probably tell you that I think he used to get a lecture just about every show. When he first started, I'm pretty sure some vet in the locker room pulled him aside and told him he had to stop doing all that crazy shit because his career wasn't going to last very long. I think even Mick Foley might have given him this advice as a young Michael. Well, after watching his match, because I believe he took the 187 from Homicide once too, that nobody else wanted to take. But
that's
Michael,
like the Vertebreaker type thing.
Yeah. And a lot of people never wanted to take that. And I think Homicide was super pressed that Michael was like, yeah, whatever. Because the kid he's always had that mentality. I think he's probably a lot smarter now. Well, I think he just does less now.
Yeah.
Of the crazy stuff that he used to do. But man, there was times when like I legitimately, Marky Mark, a lot of the times, Phoenix Taylor, those guys, like I probably have a really good heart because of those guys, because man, they used to make me so nervous and scared for them sometimes, some of the crap that they would try.
100%. I mean, they're all like fantastic. Even like everybody at the like Clandestine Society, it's just like they're all like crazy good. Everyone is just nutty. And like the thing about Michael is like, yeah, he could do all those crazy like wacky high spots and extreme moves, but even all the basic stuff that he does is done better than anyone else I've ever been in the ring with.
Michael has definitely evolved into one of those great storytellers in a match, for sure. And it's kind of interesting to watch him be the 16-year-old daredevil and then make his way all the way up to what you see now. I wish everybody could have had the front row view to watch. And he's only going to go on and do even greater things.
Yeah. It would not surprise me at all if he ends up, growing out of Alberta and ending up like on national television somewhere very soon.
He should be already.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's be real.
There's other people that I think have a good shot too. I'm betting that before soon Zoe Sager will pop up somewhere on a national stage as well.
Oh,
She's
for
fantastic.
sure.
And Mo
Not to
Jabari.
mention. Oh yeah, definitely. Zoe, it's great because I don't think Zoe has any fear. Like, she does not care,
No.
and she will, and determination and drive to get where she wants to go. That I've watched. She was like this shy little girl in the corner that was trained by Lance Storm, and then all of a sudden she's just like one of the best probably female wrestlers on the independents here in Alberta anyway. I mean, I don't watch a lot of other independents, but just to watch how far she's come and how hard she's worked, crazy.
Yeah, I saw
She deserves all the success she's going to get.
I saw her match with Metal from the Act 2 of Clandestine, and I walked up to her and I asked her, I was like, that match with Metal was nuts. Like, that part where he gorilla press slammed you into the turnbuckle, I was like, did you know that was coming? And she was like, yeah, that was my idea. And I was like, oh my God, like, are you nuts? Are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? But, you know, like, the fact that she pitched this idea, had the commitment to go through with the idea, continued wrestling after this happened to her, and like was obviously like okay. Like I give her all the credit in the world, and I'll tell you that every single time I've gone to Top Talent to train, Zoe's been there. So
right, that's what I mean. She works, and she lives, sleeps, eats, breathes wrestling. And she deserves everything she's going to get. Like, definitely her story needs to be out there, because I think it could be very inspiring to other little girls, especially the smaller ones, because Zoe's not huge, but man, she's feisty. She will beat your ass if you're not careful. Like,
yeah. No, there's been times where I lock up with her and I'm like, whoa, okay, like we're really going for it right now. Okay, cool. You know,
right? She don't mess around, and it's admirable, very much so. And then Mo, I love Mo. When I take I go to Calgary every once in a while, just to visit Takeshi, usually Aiden Adams. Brody Malibu, and Mo and DVD show up once in a while. Mo usually shows up, but BBD shows up once in a while, and just to visit the boys and, you know, laugh and catch up. And Mo has come so far. Like, I remember he used to be a guy that came with Junior all the time to shows, and then he started reffing, and now look at him, like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I can remember like doing some rides like back and forth from like Red Deer to Calgary and Edmonton and stuff when I was like, you know, years ago with guys, and you know, Mo's name would come up and they wouldn't always speak of him in like the greatest of lights, you know, but like now he's like, I 100% like have utmost respect for Mo, because like he's crazy. I had a training match with him, and it's like one of the best matches I've ever had. I wish it had been in front of people, you know?
Yeah. Mo, he worked for it, though. That's another guy that puts in the work, man. He's going to get somewhere just because he puts in the work, and he improves. Like, I think every time I see him, he just gets better.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's that's something that everybody should take from this podcast, you know, is that message of hard work will get you where you want to go. And like,
absolutely,
I don't get me wrong, hard work can be daunting and overwhelming sometimes and whatnot, but sometimes all you have to do is like, what you have to do is boil it down, and instead of being like, oh, I have to do all this hard work, look at it like, all I have to do is this hard work, you know?
Just show up and do the work, man.
So it's mindset thing. Yes, 100%. Just show up, do the work. Like, I know when I've gone to training and stuff and we go through some like crazy blow up drills at the beginning, I'm always like, just keep going. Let's get through this. I know, like, okay, this is going to be the worst part of my day, but once it's over, I'm going to feel pretty good because I conquered it, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on the refereeing front, have you ever had like aspirations to perhaps move up and advance yourself? Like, have you ever like put your resume out to Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, or anything like that?
Nah, nah. Ah, I don't know.
No.
Nothing like that.
What about perhaps refereeing other sports? Have you ever like considered going into cage fighting or hockey or
I
basketball or
I
basketball's not a
actually
real sport. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
I actually did look at becoming an MMA referee at one time. I was thinking I was gonna maybe try that out, but man, the training that goes into that.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Oof.
sure you have to be like a legitimate fighter to be an MMA referee. I could be wrong.
No, pretty much. Like you have to at least understand, the chokes, the holds, what they are, and when to stop it, and like it's pretty in depth to be an MMA referee, and then that's even worse because you got to pass all the commission stuff, and like I was just like that's just way too much.
And I mean, there's a lot more. Like, if you bugger up a match in wrestling, like, okay, obviously some people might be unhappy with you. Like, you buggered up our match or whatever, you made a mistake. But, like, in MMA, like, I was talking to Magsy over on Love Wrestling before one of our recent broadcasts, and he was telling me about the fights that happened recently. And that one guy literally had his arm broken and was hanging out there, and the referee still didn't stop the fight. And it's like, that referee, like I feel a lot of like animosity towards that situation because like if you're the referee and you're responsible, like you're responsible for the safety of the fighters, like if
Absolutely.
homeboy's arm is hanging there, like stop the fight. Somebody else has won. Like
Absolutely.
that guy is not going to
Yeah.
be able to like lock on any holds or hit anyone with his dangling, arm. You know what I mean? So,
Agreed.
and I totally,
100%.
yeah, I'm pretty sure like what's his name, John McCarthy from UFC. I'm pretty sure like that guy's like a legit badass too, and could like.
He was a cop, and I think he has like a black belt in jiu-jitsu or something crazy like that.
Is there any matches that come to mind when you think of refereeing where you're like, oh, this match was a great display of solid refereeing? Do you
Uh,
watch matches and look for that kind of stuff?
Not really, because if it's a great match, then it was obviously a great referee because you probably barely noticed the referee and you noticed everything going on in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you watch Steamboat, and can you even tell me who refereed Steamboat and Macho Man WrestleMania 3?
No, I have no idea.
But you remember Steamboat and Macho Man from Wrestling. It was Joey Morella, I believe, and you didn't even notice him
It's
until like the 800 falsies at the end. You really didn't notice him.
So, would you say that it's fair to say that like a referee can't really contribute to a great match other than like just being not noticed, but can absolutely contribute to like a bad match by causing one by becoming like too noticeable or buggering up and stuff like
Well,
that?
here's the thing: is a referee contributes to the match by not being noticed until it's time to be noticed, because you need the referee to get those close, the falsies and the close, twos and but you don't want to interfere with what's going on in the ring and the story being told. By a referee being noticed and taking away from the story that's being told in the ring, it's just, number one, it's just unprofessional and disrespectful.
Yeah.
But number two, what are you trying to accomplish? Nobody pays to see the referee. They pay to see the wrestlers,
Yeah.
and the match that's going to take place. That's what they pay for. They don't pay to see the referee. Nobody pays to see the referee.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally I can get with that too, because like even when I was ring announcing, I like you, I would get a lot of comments like that I'm a good ring announcer. I have had people tell me like I'm a way better ring announcer than I am wrestler, and on one hand, I really appreciate those comments, but on the other hand, it's like, well, I want to be a wrestler because nobody is paying to come and watch the fucking ring announcer, you know? Like
10-4, true story. Even when I get in the ring, sometimes I'll get Fitzy chants or whatever, and I'll acknowledge the crowd out of respect and thank you for noticing and respecting and everything. But you know what? It's not about me. It's about what's about to take place in the ring, right? And I always had that attitude, and I will always have that attitude.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and even like I think the master of achieving that balance would be like a guy like Earl Hebner, who, you know, I can remember moments of Earl Hebner where he like, you know, somebody comes after him, like you said earlier, like Triple H will like bow up to him and shove him, and he'll just be like, nah, fuck you, pal, and he'll shove him back. And
yeah,
I've even seen him throw up the suck it and all kinds of stuff. But it's also like he's playing his character so well and stuff, and it's like it's clearly a designed moment. Like he's not shooting that on Triple H.
Well, no. I mean? At the same time, though, that's Triple H using the referee as a tool to get his story over, to get himself over as a heel, to get that heat. Because that's the other thing that we help do, right? Is like if the heel's being a bad guy, it doesn't mean anything if nobody's getting in his face telling him not to break the rules. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. But if the referee's there getting in his face and, you know, getting more aggressive with him as he breaks more rules, then the crowd sees that and they're like, well, this guy's being a dick, and this poor ref's trying to get him to stop breaking the rules, but he's being a heel, you know, he's breaking the rules. Now we want to see the babyface kick his ass because the ref can't.
Yeah.
So that's the, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's storytelling. It's a tool. Yeah. We're a tool.
I mean, in a positive sense, we'll put it that way. I know like Charles, who referees for RCW, he seems to take a lot of pride in taking ref bumps. Is that something like if they come to you and they ask you to take a bump, is that something you're stoked to do, or are you like, darn, I didn't want to take any bumps? Like, is that like, how do you feel when those are proposed to you? Like,
hey man, if it's going to further the story and that needs to be part of the story they need to tell, so be it. That's it. It's my job. It's what I'm there for. I'm not opposed to taking bumps, and I don't look forward to taking bumps. Who the hell does? Maybe some of you crazy bastards that wrestle, but I don't. But it doesn't, just because I'm not looking forward to taking a bump doesn't mean I won't take a bump. If the story calls for a bump, let's bump.
And how?
Like,
sorry.
I don't think there should be a sense of pride being, I mean, if you want to bump that much, go be a wrestler.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, I'm not hating on Charles.
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah. Like it's a ref bump. They're usually not that intricate.
No,
they're pretty easy. Yeah.
I know that Charles has been like pretty gung-ho about it though, and like there has been guys that are like, okay, you want to take bumps? I'll give you a fucking Death Valley driver tonight. It's like, oh, okay. Like Charles told me, he's like, oh yeah, the Aussie legend, he gave me a Death Valley driver on top of heavy metal, and it really hurt. And I was like, well, yeah, like of course it did.
Yeah, see, like stuff, I mean, like it's just uncalled for stuff like that. Like it's that to me, by trying to convince someone to bump you in a match, that's one of those things where I mean, like,
yeah, and I don't think it was Charles's idea. Like it was proposed to him, but because he's like a gung ho guy, he was like, yeah, sweet, let's do it. You know, like,
yeah. See, but having that reputation too, it's going to be taken advantage of. It's the wrestling business, of course it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Like even when I was refereeing, there was one time where I got beat up at the end of a match, and I don't get me wrong, when I was refereeing, I had wrestling matches before that, so it wasn't like, oh, they're just beating up this poor guy that has no idea what he's doing. I mean, I wasn't far from that at that point in time, but it also was like, I felt comfortable with the bump, and it wasn't like a thing that was like proposed to me cold that I had no training. And I mean, it's probably the same with you because you have trained, so like you're prepared to do that when asked and stuff.
Yeah, that's all you should have to be.
Mm-hmm.
If like I said, if it's what they need to get something over, or to further the story, or to tell the story in the match better for an angle, whatever. Of course, absolutely.
Can you give me like just like your top 3 matches, like 3 of your favorite matches that you've ever wrestled or refereed? Excuse me.
Refereed.
Yeah.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is probably Marky Mark versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, that I can see being really good.
Another one that holds a very special place in my heart is the new Karachi Vice, which would be Gama Singh Jr. and Jinder Mahal,
Okay.
or as he was called then, Tiger Singh, versus the Funky Bunch, which was Marky Mark and Phoenix Taylor, and they had a ladder match, which is still probably one of my favorite ladder matches I've ever seen, and that even includes stuff in the WWE.
Yeah, there's been some crazy ladder matches. And did you referee Michael versus Teddy in the ladder match?
Yeah, no, I did not.
What is the like? Because I know like refereeing a regular match where pinfalls are required and stuff is one thing, but like then refereeing a ladder match, which has a whole different set of rules. Like, what goes into refereeing a match like that?
Making sure nobody gets severely injured.
Okay, so you're basically there to stop the match if somebody gets hurt?
And declare the winner when they grab whatever it is they're reaching for. It's an easy night at the office for me, generally. Probably not the wrestlers, though, with the bumps they take. And then a third favorite match of mine I've ever refereed is probably, hands down, MRB versus Cody Rhodes, number 3. The one that went to a time limit draw.
Okay. How many matches have MRB and Cody had?
3.
So they've had like their like Punk Joe trilogy already.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that was just, man. And then I mean, so many matches. I remember used to being the ref for TJ and Harry versus the Funky Bunch, which are probably up there in the top 5 of what I used to referee. And I remember at times the match was so damn good, and TJ, Harry, Mark, and Leo were so damn good that I'd forget I was the referee, and they'd go down for a pin and actually look up at me, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm the ref. And then I had to go and count. But man, those were some great matches.
Yeah,
like,
I don't feel bad about that. That has happened to me. That's even happened to me when I'm like in like tag team matches and 6-man tags, and our opponents will do something really cool, and I'll be like, yeah, and then I'll be like, oh wait, no, like.
But yeah, so I mean, I could go on, like Michael versus Samoa Joe. Actually, see, it's tough because there's so many, but one of the other ones that really, really, really sticks out is Michael versus Christopher Daniels in Calgary at a Night of Champions. And Michael basically had, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Michael injured. It was when he first did his pec injury, and he basically only had the one arm to work with in that match. And if you can find that match, or if you own the DVD for that match, watch that match and tell me if you can tell that the kid only could use really one arm well. Like, he did all that, and it was probably one of the greatest matches in PWA. It's got to be up there.
I will definitely be taking a look at that, especially like, is that available on that PWA YouTube?
I don't think so, but if you talk to Boris, I bet you he has the DVD he will sell you for the workers' cost or whatever. Another one is Harry versus Chavo Guerrero.
Oh, okay.
That was a hell of a story that they told in that ring.
Just all the names you're mentioning and all the talent you've been in the ring with, like I'm pretty envious, dude. Like that's awesome, man. Like you must be like super proud.
Well, I look at it as I've had probably the best seat in the house for a lot of wrestling shows for the last 20 years. That's the way I kind of view it.
Yeah, you can't get much closer to the action than being between the ropes while the matches are going on, right?
Right, and it's amazing. Like some days it's just like, whew, can't even believe I just did that.
The highest of highs.
Another big thing that stands out for me is counting 3 for Booker T's PWA title win.
I was not even aware Booker T was ever the PWA champion. That's awesome. How long did Booker T hold the belt for?
I believe it was for a few months.
Oh, wow. So this wasn't even like a situation where he beat somebody and then like a Money in the Bank came on and like by the end of the show,
he came back.
Champ again.
He came back and defended the title and lost, but he defended the title.
That's incredible. Wow. Right on. Well, we are kind of we're getting close to the end here, so I'm gonna have you plug your social media and stuff in just a second. But I did want to ask if you've heard anything on the PWA front about the possibility of them resuming shows.
I have not officially heard anything yet. No. I hope it's soon because, I miss my wrestling family. I want to get back to my wrestling family and all the good folks at PWA and the fans. I miss the fans, of course.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, we are recording this on the 15th of June. So this weekend is actually going to be the first weekend with fans back for RCW. And I could not be more stoked about it,
Yeah.
We've done. Sorry.
Have a good show.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, like I say, this podcast won't be going up for a good 3 or 4 weeks here. So hopefully by then, everything that we've just done with Clandestine will be announced and whatnot. But like with the Clandestine and the RCW Uprising tapings, all like there's no fans, and.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for like a guy like me who really like relies on crowd work during his matches. It's incredibly challenging to wrestle with no people there. Incredibly challenging. Clandestine was a little easier because there was some of the other wrestlers around cheering you on and whatnot, and trying to keep the event lively. But it's just like it's not the same as a building full of people. You know what I mean? And
yeah, absolutely.
I'm super, super stoked for that to be going down and whatnot. So hopefully by the time next week's podcast airs, we can talk about how that went and stuff right here on Backbreaker Media Network. Fitz, why don't you give the folks your social media information? Where can people follow along at you? If anyone's looking to book referees, where can they get a hold of you?
Let's see, Facebook.
If you're taking bookings.
I generally don't take bookings.
Everybody's got a price, though, so...
I probably don't. I don't think anything can make me take a booking and work somewhere else.
No?
I bleed PWA. Ask Steven. Ask Squig how many times he tried to come and get me to. I think, you know what, now that you mention it, I think I did agree as a favor to Marky Mark that as long as it wasn't in Edmonton or Calgary, I would come to RCW and referee one of his matches.
Okay. And I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that, to be honest. And I was more so talking about like, other like if CWE needed a guy like maybe in Saskatchewan or something, and they really needed a guy, maybe they could throw.
I'm not traveling.
No,
I'm not
traveling.
Not
even for some like extra money.
No, I travel to Vegas once a year. That's about all the traveling I'm going to do. Maybe to Calgary.
When you
But
go to
that's for
Vegas, is
visiting.
that like a cauliflower alley thing? Do you go down to that, or
No, I've just gone to Vegas
you
yearly for the last.
just like to gamble?
No, I don't even gamble
Oh,
or
really?
drink. I just love Vegas. I love to eat, and I love the weather. I love laying by the pool during the day, and the weather. The weather's beautiful.
Do you take in
I
wrestling
just
shows while
Vegas.
you're there?
No,
No.
but there is a local there's a local promotion
Mm-hmm.
that I might go check out next time I go. And also,
I think
I got to go have a beer.
Snake Pit is down there. Simbodi's wrestling school.
I think there's that one, but there's another one. And I got to go have a wobbly pop with my good friend Jeff Cobb.
Oh, awesome! I did not know you were friends with Jeff Cobb. That's cool.
I picked him up from the airport, and he said next time I'm in Vegas, text him and give him a call. And then I did, and we done it I think once already. So
That's awesome, buddy. I'm very envious because I talked to Spencer Love from Love Wrestling, and he told me he's going to Vegas for SummerSlam, and I was like, oh, if I had the cash,
is that
I would
that where it
so
is
love
this
to
year?
go. Yeah, apparently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and a SummerSlam, that I can only imagine how cool it would be to be at a SummerSlam. Like I've been to WWE shows. Like I've gone to like when they came to the Rogers Center recently. I think there was a match between like the Revival and Bobby Roode and his tag partner, which was really great. But like it's just non-televised stuff, right? The only time I think I ever went to a televised WWE show was a Raw in Vancouver, and it was before they did the Elimination Chamber at SummerSlam, because I remember there was another match was supposed to go down at that SummerSlam, and it was this show where Stone Cold Steve Austin came out and was like, nah, it's going to be an Elimination Chamber. I'm like, hell yeah, right? And, yeah.
But hey, you got to make a WrestleMania, Goose.
I would love to
I've
make
been
a WrestleMania.
been to 3 WrestleManias.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to, and I mean, especially like now that I'm an actual wrestler. Like, there's a lot of peripheral shows that go on around WrestleMania, so I would definitely be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm in town. If anyone wants me to wrestle, you know.
Yeah, could be a good time. Yeah, WrestleMania is a good time. If you're a wrestling fan, a lifelong, you gotta go to WrestleMania.
Yeah. So did we actually get to your Facebook stuff, or did I completely talk over you?
Yeah, we veered, but that's okay. Facebook, it's my real name, Patrick Madigan. I think Instagram, it's the same thing. It might be P Madigan. And Twitter, I think, is my real name as well. It's either P Madigan or Patrick Madigan. One is something, I don't know. I try to answer if someone.
Yeah, if you want to talk to Fitz, go through to the Twitter and just start randomly contacting people named Patrick Madigan or P Madigan, and eventually you'll come across them.
Eventually.
Awesome, buddy.
Eventually.
Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast today. I really appreciate it. You had some great stories. I'm just going to generally ask, though, do you have one more just like great story that you can tell before we get off here real briefly?
I don't know. You got to give me an angle. What kind of story?
Well, just give me your best picking a guy up from the airport story.
I already probably gave that one, and it was Mick.
Okay, give me your best. You're in the ring and something goes down that maybe isn't supposed to happen, but y'all just make it work.
Okay, here's one. So it's Sergeant Hazard and Chip Worthington, and they were told to the finish was supposed to be a draw, or what do you call it? What do you call a draw in wrestling lingo?
Like
Broadway.
Time limit Broadway?
Yes, it's supposed to be a Broadway. And neither one of them knew what a Broadway was.
Oh, okay.
I knew what a Broadway was, but they didn't know what a Broadway was. So I think Sarge basically sit-out powerbombed Worthington. And I was counting 1, 2, and I noticed Chip wasn't going to kick out, so I made it look like he did, which was the worst mistake in the business. But I was trying to save their ass.
What do you mean? Like you like physically like picked his shoulder up, or like because like the people aren't going to see the video, so you have to describe your physical like what happened.
Oh right, yeah. So I'm counting 1, 2, and then I just acted like he kicked out. I just threw up the big old like 2.
Okay, yeah.
And he didn't move. It was the worst looking like bullshit ever. And Sarge looked at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "It's a Broadway." And he's like, "What?" Like, "It's a Broadway." And he looked at me again, confused, picked him up, sat out powerbomb. I was like, "Okay, whatever. 1, 2, 3." We get to the back, and the booker's like, "What the hell was that?" I'm like, "They don't know what a Broadway is." And I just kept walking. And then they got in shit because they didn't know what a Broadway was until it was finally explained to them after that match what a Broadway was. It was pretty funny. But...
You'd think that they would ask or something. Like, if they didn't know, like, I mean, I can understand nobody wants to, like, look dumb and have to ask the promoter, like, "Oh, what do you mean by Broadway?" But at the same time, like...
It's a funny story now, and yeah, Sarge was still pretty new. Chip Worthington was very new, so it was. I thought they knew what a Broadway was, but obviously they didn't know what a Broadway was.
So, yeah, something similar happened to me in a match one time. I was wrestling against Dead Zone, and 8 seconds in, I had him on the ground, and I pinned him. And, this was definitely not the finish because, like I say, it was literally like 8 seconds into the match. So I cover him, and Charles goes, 1, 2. Hey, like stalling. It's like, "Are you going to kick out, bud?" and so eventually he did and whatnot, but it was like we completely like lost the crowd. It was a real because they were all like, "What the fuck?" Like.
See, nowadays I know better. Like, not to, like, doesn't matter who's in the ring. Like, if you don't kick out, it's your problem.
You're enforcing the rules, and like, if homeboy doesn't know what a Broadway is and decides to like pin the other guy, and the other guy decides to get pinned, that's on the boys, not the ref.
Right.
So,
right. I was trying to look out for them. It was early in my career too, so I was trying to like look out for them, but it didn't work out.
Yeah,
that was a fun
100%. Nobody wants to be like, get backstage and be like, "Whoa, you're a dumbass. You don't know what a Broadway is." Like, nobody wants to like be in that confrontational situation. Of course. Right. So like, I get where you're coming from, but like, end of the day, like, I do think the right thing to do is just ref the match as a shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. Count three. Now I wouldn't even bother making that mistake. But man, back then, that's still I was probably only my 3rd, maybe 4th year in. I think not even.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty early on.
I get it, and it's like 100%, and. Even like if you were 3 years in, like on the indie level, you're probably still doing only like 1 or 2 shows a month. So,
I was probably only 1 show a month back then, because I don't even think, because Stampede was running, so we didn't even do a Calgary show back then. It was just Edmonton we ran.
Okay, so it's like that's one of those weird wrestling things when people say, "Oh yeah," like whenever I tell anyone how long I've been wrestling, I always say, "Yeah, I've had my first match October 13th, 2018." But I've had 72 matches now. Like I give them an idea of like, how long I've been wrestling. It's not really an accurate depiction. It's like, how many matches have you done is much more important than how long have you. But like, as a referee guy, like, I'm sure, like, I don't know, do you keep like a logbook of all the matches you've ever done? Probably not, right? Like, and
no, and for the first little bit, I think I was the only referee, so I would do every match, every show.
Oh, that's got to be tough.
I always used to joke back then that I was the toughest guy in the PWA, because I'd take a ref bump, go to the back selling, come back out, all chipper, ready to go.
All right.
Referee the next match.
That's awesome. We're gonna sign off here. Thank you very much for doing the podcast. This has been Monday Night Shaw with me, Kyle Shaw, aka the Canadian Goose, honk honk honk, and Fitz, the Iron Man Fitzpatrick, referee for PWA. Check him out as soon as PWA comes back, or once Clandestine Society is up on the YouTube again, because he does an excellent job. Fitz, thank you very much for joining the show today.
Oh, thank you, man. It was fun.
Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, Quebec and Newfoundland.